Most people don't want freedom. They want stability. But stability is the most effective control system ever created. It doesn't threaten you. It doesn't rush you. It keeps you calm, compliant, and permanently available. Stability isn't safety. It's permission to be controlled. The moment you choose stability, you trade freedom for predictability. And predictability is easy to replace. Stable people don't get protected. They get managed. Stable people are not supported. They are optimized for use. Stability doesn't keep you safe. It keeps you useful. If stability were harmless, it wouldn't require so much reassurance. Stable lives don't collapse. They quietly shrink. Until leaving feels impossible. Stability doesn't fail you suddenly. It trains you slowly. To avoid risk, to value comfort, to mistake routine for control. Until one day, stability costs more than failure ever would. Stability is not a state. It's a training environment. It doesn't just organize your schedule. It reshapes your instincts. Over time, stability doesn't just limit your actions. It edits your sense of what is even worth wanting. Over time, stability teaches you which risks are acceptable, which questions are inconvenient, and which ambitions are unrealistic. Not because they are dangerous, but because they disrupt the rhythm. And once your instincts are trained, control no longer needs enforcement. This is the part most people miss. Stable systems don't survive because they are efficient. They survive because the people inside them start protecting them. Not consciously, not ideologically, but emotionally. When your comfort depends on a system, questioning it feels like self-sabotage. So, stability doesn't just control behavior, it recruits loyalty. The most reliable defenders of a system are the ones who feel they owe it their calm. Most people think they fear failure. They don't. They fear becoming unstable after adapting to stability. Because once you've optimized yourself for a stable environment, uncertainty feels violent. Not because it is, but because you're no longer calibrated for it. Failure feels sharp. Instability feels like losing your internal compass. Failure threatens outcomes. Instability threatens identity. Michel Foucault described this as discipline without punishment. A system that doesn't break you, it formats you. Discipline without punishment. Control without resistance. Stability changes how far ahead you're allowed to think. Long-term vision becomes irresponsible. Short-term comfort becomes rational. Long-term thinking becomes socially suspicious. You stop asking, "Where is this leading?" and start asking, "How do I keep this going?" That's when ambition gets rebranded as risk, and caution gets rewarded as wisdom. Awareness is expensive in stable systems. It creates questions, alternatives, exit scenarios. And exits are dangerous, not because people leave, but because they remind others that leaving is possible. So stable systems don't attack awareness. They exhaust it. Awareness doesn't destabilize systems. It destabilizes those who depend on not seeing alternatives. Every stable life makes a trade, not freedom for security. That's the story. The real trade is this: optional future for predictable present. And once the future becomes optional, obedience becomes reasonable. And the longer that trade lasts, the more irreversible it feels. By the time stability becomes unbearable, It has already done its job. Your tolerance for uncertainty is gone. Your imagination has narrowed, and your sense of alternatives feels abstract. That's why people don't leave stable traps when they are still comfortable. They leave only when staying becomes psychologically unsustainable. By the time you want to leave, you no longer remember how uncertainty once felt neutral. Stability doesn't destroy lives. It reorganizes them around what is acceptable. And once your definition of acceptable is small enough, control no longer feels like control. It feels like common sense. And once it feels like common sense, the trap no longer needs walls. Every system survives by repetition. Clarity does not. It survives only if it is maintained. This channel exists to maintain it. If you want to keep access to what others gradually lose, stay connected.